Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Developer Experience Office Hours, where we are featuring things from the future. So with that, I'd like to put in just a quick disclaimer that things that you see on this show today may or may not land in the product at the certain version we say. So this is all kind of future stuff, but we'll talk about that and disclaim as appropriate in the features we discuss. But today we're joined by a bevy of developer advocates, and I'm sorry, not a bevy of developer advocates, one developer advocate and some product managers. I love it. Yay. so, so please, Serena from the future, introduce yourself and let us know, and like hand it off to Shubik to introduce himself, and Ryan can introduce himself after that. How about that?
Sure. Hey, everybody. This is Serena Nichols. As everybody knows, I'm kind of Serena from the future, always kind of talking about what we're going to be bringing with the OpenShift developer experience in future releases. So today we're going to start with something that we have target. It's actually available in 4.6, but then quickly switch over to 4.7. And we have Shubik, that is a developer, actually, that is going to join us, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes. Sorry,
Thank you,
Shubik, you're an
Serena.
engineer. I forgot about that. Duh.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Hey, hi, everyone. I'm Shobhik. I'm an architect. I'm an engineering architect for CI/CD and GitOps on the OpenShift developer side. And I'm excited to talk about all the GitOps things that we are doing on OpenShift today. Over to you,
Awesome.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan Jarvinen. You could find me most places online as Ryan J. I'm here from the OpenShift developer advocate team, and I'll be helping out answering questions in chat. Feel free to send them to me. Let us know what you're thinking, and hit us up with questions, topics for the future, and I'd be happy to help.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. So let's jump right on in here.
All right. Thank you. So let's see. The first thing that we're going to talk about is visibility of applications across environments, which is available in 4.6. It's a dev preview feature. We're going to do a quick demo, and we have a cluster kind of already set up, and Shubik is going to explain how that configuration was done. And we'll kind of look through some things here in OpenShift. So
fancy.
Let's see, is it still, you can see my cluster now, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Hoping not to repeat last week when we crashed the cluster. So
hey, I got two spares this week.
All right. So this is after you've done all of the configuration. What ends up happening is, in the developer perspective here, you do have an application stages tab or item in the navigation where I can see the numerous applications I have access to that have been configured. And I can see that the name of the application, this one is App Taxi, and how many environments that it's on. And if I click into that, I can see a detailed view of that application. And when it comes up, it shows me that it's running in 3 different environments. One is dev, one is prod, one is stage. It shows me the last time these environments were actually updated with a little label on the top, and then gives me some additional information. But before we go into any more detail, I'm going to pass it over to Shubik so he can explain how this configuration occurs, or how you can do it on your own clusters.
Thank you, Serena. So for a minute, I'll just stay on the screen. But after that, we could move on to the CAM README. But in general, I think one of the goals of this screen is to visualize what the expected state of your applications would be and what they are right now on your cluster. So your expected state of your application is defined as manifests in a Git repository. So you could see a manifest file repo. And the donuts at the bottom are effectively the state of your workloads, which can be mapped to what's the expected state in the Git repository. So we'll quickly go over to figure out what really powers this behind the scenes. From a GitOps perspective, what exactly do you need to do so that you get this visualization? So we have a new project called the GitOps Application Manager. It's a CLI, which helps you set up your GitOps repository with both CI and CD built into it. When I say CI, I effectively mean that if you're managing your manifests for different environments on Git, you would want to make a PR to them, ensure that everything works fine, and then merge it. Now, to ensure everything works fine, some pipelines would have to be run. In this case, it automatically bootstraps your GitOps manifests with take-down pipelines without you having to choose that or make a decision about that or even think about it. And then once you merge it, it gets deployed on your cluster using Argo CD. Now, all that's abstracted out from you because let's say you just want to deploy something called an app taxi in 3 environments, and you know what your deployment manifest looks like, etc. And you just want to manage that on Git and ensure that it keeps getting synced to your cluster. So this project ensures that you can bootstrap that using a CLI. And after you bootstrap that using your CLI, you could go to your cluster, tell your cluster, hey, I've got a GitOps repository. This is the URL to reach it to. And then here's my token if needed to be able to make calls to that Git repository, and you're good. And you see that view in there. So right now, as a day one operations, there are a few things that you would typically do in any GitOps scenario. Like, for example, I'm a team lead. I've got a new application. I've enjoyed deploying it, and I want this to be deployed across 3 environments. So you would effectively need your manifests to be deployed using Argo CD. You would need those manifests controlled in your Git using pipelines so that somebody doesn't enter a paragraph of some jargon and commit that YAML into Git. That has to go through pipelines and it has to be validated. And of course, if you're managing secrets on Git, you better have them encrypted. So this effectively uses sealed secrets behind the scenes without you caring about it much. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. It has a very simplistic manifest of how to have a single YAML define where's your environment, where's your service. You could add new services to an environment. You could add new environments and add new services to it if you want. And at the end of it, everything gets automatically synced into the clusters that have been configured with Argo CD out of the box. And now, if you'd want to come back to OpenShift console and there see how the view of it looks like, we provide you this multi-environment view for all your different applications. So let's say you've chosen to use the GitOps application manager to bootstrap the app taxi app across 3 environments. Your CLI gives you the whole GitOps layout the way it needs to be on Git. And if you're a user who also wants to see how it looks on the console, you could basically plug it into your console and say, hey, here is my GitOps repository. Give me a visualization of what the expected state is and what the workloads look like right now. And that's what this page does for you. There are a few improvements that will happen on an iterative basis, which is you should be able to see which is the latest commit that powers this current deployment. You should be able to see which clusters your stuff is deployed on. So if you know Argo CD or general GitOps practices, you could have your application deployed on the same cluster on multiple different clusters. It could be an OpenShift cluster. It could be on an Amazon Kubernetes cluster. It could be anywhere you want it to be. The goal is that this view lets you visualize the whole thing in a single page setup, while behind the scenes, a lot is happening. Anything you'd like to add to that, Serena?
I was just taking a look at, there's also a bunch of questions here in the chat. So
Yeah,
Chris, I wonder if you don't mind, popping in with some of the questions.
So is CAM stable? Let's talk about CAM for a second. Like, where is that in its life cycle? Is it pretty new? How stable is it? How often is it changing? Yeah.
Good point. So if you go to CAM, so it's called CAM, but if you go to the README quickly once. So CAM, we call it GitOps Application Manager. If you go to the homepage of it, can you go to the homepage?
Yep, sure.
Right. So on the right, you see we are doing releases almost every 2 weeks. But the version number would tell you that it's not a major release yet. So which means this is still in dev preview.
Okay.
But we already have some friendly customers who are trying this out on a daily basis. So this is not something that's going to break every week. This is something we just want to take it through a good maturity staircase so that we get enough feedback, and at the same time, we do the right thing that addresses problems of our customers.
Awesome. So let's see. There's going to be another question from Zach here in a second. Is CAM usable on vanilla Kubernetes clusters?
The goal of CAM is to be
agnostic, I'm assuming? Or?
Usable with Kubernetes clusters.
Yeah.
And I'll quickly call out which areas currently we need to improve on for that. So for example, it creates a route for your pipeline event listener today, for example. And we're basically working on making those, hey, if route API is not available on your cluster, just use an ingress and it should be fine. So I think those are the primary things. But other than that, in principle and in design, this should work on both vanilla Kubernetes as well as OpenShift.
Awesome. Good to hear. Cool. And yes, the office hours broadcast is open for questions and answers. So if you have them, feel free to fire away with whatever, OpenShift, RHEL, whatever you want, right? Like Ansible, you name it. I'm Ansible and RHEL certified. We've got OpenShift people everywhere, so like fire away. Unless it's something that we've not touched lately, we'll probably get you an answer to it on the show. If not, I will make sure that you have my contact info so that you can ask me and I can get the answer for you. So feel free to ask away, folks. And chat is open to all. If you're having problems, sorry.
Hey, so Shubhik, will you do me a favor and just review? Like, I know that there's 3 operators that you need in order to get this working, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So just quickly going over what those 3 are.
Yeah. Right. So if you go to the installed operators page, I think on the administrator view.
I'm sorry. Yes.
And you'll quickly see what's there behind the scenes.
Yes.
So there are a few things that powered this today, and this is not super indicative, but I'll go over that. So you need Argo CD to be running on your cluster. It could be through an operator or it could be without an operator. Doesn't matter. But of course, from a Red Hat support perspective, it will be with an operator. But then, like I said, if you don't like the operator, you just want to take the upstream Argo CD and run it, even that's fine. You need Tecton because the GitOps repositories, which holds your manifests, it has pipelines inbuilt into it, and we use Tecton or OpenShift pipelines for that. Now, there's also something called GitOps Service Operator, which is a bit of a meta operator. What this effectively does is this adds it effectively stitches together a few things so that your visualization on the UI works. Some of the goals, some of the goals that we have, and again, I accept the disclaimer which Chris said, is that some of the things might change, but in general, the goal is that you should install one operator to get Red Hat GitOps. And it should ensure all the other things come with it. And that includes stuff like seal secrets, which is a detail to keep your secrets encrypted, Argo CD, pipelines. The goal is that this operator should get you everything from a Red Hat GitOps experience.
So this operator pulls multiple operators to get everything set up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So that's the goal there. Yeah.
Nice. And I like that it's like, kind of neatly tucked away and yes, you need this, but you don't necessarily have to have it. Yes, you could do it yourself if you want, but this just kind of puts it all together for you.
Yeah, a couple of other things I just wanted to mention too is, so even in 4.6, we all know that 4.6 is going out in the next week or so. I don't know if we have a definitive date that we're supposed to be saying.
That's far closer than what I've known, but okay.
Okay, maybe
you
I'm
would
wrong.
know better than me,
maybe
though.
I'm wrong.
I don't know. I try not to keep the dates written down anymore.
Yeah. So, okay, in the near term, in
the near future, 4.6 will be out. Yes,
4.6 will be out, and this is what you will see. But what we are going to do is we're going to be putting some fixes in for the first Z stream, right? Where right now, this project that the dev stage is running in is not selectable, and we're going to be changing that in the first eStream. And the reason we're saying that is so that you could automatically click here, and then you could actually go in. What it will do is bring you to topology and be able to show you the application running. So it's just a convenience thing. We weren't able to get that working before.
So just make the
code
dev
freeze.
stage prod all clickable, like.
Yeah, and so you
Some-
can you can quickly get in if you want to see status, if there's something wrong or whatever, you can see some status there. So that is one of the changes that will be coming in ZStream 1. The other thing is, if your application has multiple deployments, deployment configs in it, etc., you would be seeing those in the inside of this column. This app taxi application only happens to have a single deployment. But if there was additional pieces, you would be seeing them in this column as well.
Yeah, any services or cron jobs or anything else, they'd all be in
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. And then, like you can tell that this is showing that it's one pod running, but if I go over to topology and let's see if I can break it, hopefully I won't.
Oh, you're good at this.
I know I am. That's why I'm saying it. Let's scale this guy up and go back over to application stages and back into app taxi and see if this is actually going to reflect that data. It might not right away.
Wouldn't you have to push it through Git? Isn't that kind of the whole point?
Oh, this is interesting.
No, so I think the goal should be that, the goal is to ensure that the UI tells you if
Yes.
you have deviated from Git. So
Right.
it should still show
Right.
up.
Okay.
Interesting though, it didn't scale up. So that's something that we can look at.
Yeah, so this probably didn't scale up because Argo CD is not letting it scale up.
Controlling it. Right.
Argo CD is ensuring that if the manifest has said one replica, I'm going to keep it at one replica, no matter how much Serena or Shobhik wants it to change.
Right. And you wonder if
Yeah,
there's
but you would
anything
see it
here.
like maybe spin up and then spin back down, maybe. Yeah, started container, created container.
But that's
It's a
943.
943.
So that's interesting, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
Like it didn't even event that
Let's take a
you
This
tried
is
to muck with it.
interesting.
Oh, see, look, there it is.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, one running, one terminating. Done.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do it.
Right. It won't
Get
let
off
me do it.
works.
Okay. Well, that's
Yes,
okay.
this works.
The good news is it is reflecting what's showing in the topology view.
Yes.
It's reflecting what's showing in the topology view and Git and everything else. Yeah, and it's keeping it that way.
But we're not providing any feedback as to why it won't let you scale up, which we can improve. So
But this is good, I think.
yeah,
I'm
definitely.
happy it worked.
right, yeah. So so that's where we are with 4.6. Are there any other questions before? Otherwise, we can talk about a couple of the things that we are looking at doing in
I took
the
my
future
eye off of
with
Twitch
this
for
view.
a second and oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
All right. So hello. Okay. Dang, there's a lot of chat that I just missed. My bad, y'all. Sorry. Let's see. Yes. Out of curiosity. Okay. So is promoting from different clusters easy to set up in Tecton? Promoting from different clusters. So like this build is good and in staging, I'm assuming. How do you normally manage applications in OCP on a project level?
Yeah, I can take the first
Okay.
one to begin with. Promoting applications with Tecton. So you could promote applications using Tecton, which means that you have a pipeline which goes and deploys in a different environment. Some of the other things that we encourage generally compared to that is that Tecton shouldn't itself go and deploy things in a different environment. Rather, if we had to have Tecton do a promotion, it should make a PR to the manifests of the other environment. And that could either become an automatic merge, but effectively what I'm saying is the deployment should always be reflected from the Git repository, not directly through the pipelines. That's the GitOps model we are generally encouraging if somebody wants to have things managed on Git. But otherwise, yeah, you could totally go and deploy from Tecton in a non-Git declarative model.
Okay, cool. Next question. Definitely, this is not related to GitOps, but this is office hours. So here we are. I have a cluster deployed, connected to an AD provider. I then added a group called PAS from AD, and as a member of that group, I can log in. Then on AD, I added a group called container dev nested under the paths group. So container dev under paths. Added container dev to the OCP cluster with the edit role. OCP has synced to AD and shows the users, but they get access denied when they try to log in. Where should I start looking for problems? So that kind of depends how you're setting up the provider in AD. You would want to look at those logs first to see what it's saying, because something, if the users are there and they're not logging in, there's probably some other RBAC thing that's not toggled on potentially, is what I'm thinking. So there might be an error in that log from the provider, I would imagine. So I'm at Zach, it really depends on what you're using to set up that AD integration. If it's directly built in, there should be some logs somewhere. Ali, you might be able to chime in if you're still around. Shubik too.
Yeah, I think in general, the thing that I would try at first is, could the admin impersonate another user and use the CLI called can I or so there's a CLI option we have, like, can I edit pods, can I see pods, etc. I think that's the first thing I would try to do as a kube admin, impersonate it as one of those users and see if that works, and then kind of walk back from there. Essentially ensure, does the RBAC backend recognize the presence of this user, and does it make any sense of that? I think that's the first thing I would do.
So impersonate and see if you can do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to read this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So is it? Oh, oof. All right. Narenda's got a long question here for me. No big deal. I tried out Istio Service Mesh with Knative using Istio as a network layer instead of Glue or Contour. So all the pods have 3 containers anytime when hitting the K-service endpoint. So Knative in here. So if I use HashiCorp Vault auto injection for secret management in the cluster, this will make the number of containers in certain pods 4. Is it good or bad, or should I just switch and use sealed secrets and manage the secrets in GitOps, taking a few more minutes to manage them, like stick to them to namespaces kind of thing, rather than using the Vault UI, which might blow up as it increases number of containers in the pod? Like, this is one of those, like, do I add another pod or do I do something different kind of thing, right? Like, and that's really all about application design, I feel like. Shubek, you probably have some great opinions on this.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you could do both, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, from a Vault perspective, it works. The thing about sealed secrets is that it has a more controller-based model of rewriting our secrets in a different way while they're represented as secrets. Whereas I think Vault, on the other hand, basically takes the encrypted at rest and projects it into your application whenever needed. So I think with the Vault implementation that has been put on chat, you aren't truly storing your secret on Git, to be honest. You're storing it in a slightly different place, whereas compared to sealed secrets, there is a representation of the secret on Git. So from a GitOps perspective, sealed secrets look slightly better to me, but like I said, I wouldn't have a strong opinion on not using Vault, because from my experience, Vault also works very well. So that's what I would say.
There, it's like I said, it's really kind of like 2 to 1, half a dozen, or 6 to 1, half a dozen to another, right? Like,
yeah,
it really depends on the application. Like, do you want to have, 4 containers per pod, or do you want to just use sealed secrets, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so Narendev just put in for clarification, the containers here are, one is for the app, one is for the Knative service, one is for the service mesh. So you would have another one for,
I think, a sidecar that
Yeah.
brings in the credentials. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, remember, folks, like, pods are one or more container, right? Like, just because it's got 17 containers in it doesn't mean it's a bad pod. It just means it's a busy pod, right? So yeah. So, and I think Serena just covered the question about the view changing. So thank you, Serena. Would it add a 4th column, or would it just scroll down kind of deal? And
Can I just quickly just show
Sure.
something really quick?
Yeah, please do.
So there is a responsive nature to this. So if there is a fourth, you can actually see it. If there's more than 4, you'll get a horizontal scroll. And just remember, everybody, that it's not the best user experience, but if you run out of real estate, you can always hide the menu, right? So if you're sitting in if this is a view that you want to be sitting in and working in for a long time, you can always click on that hamburger menu and get more real estate that way. But I did also add a little question there, just curious on what's the typical number of environments people are working with, and then what do you top out at? Because that would be good for us to know and to bring back to our UX team so that we can redesign this view appropriately as needed based on the requirements that we have. And again, that's one of the reasons we're putting stuff out as dev preview, right?
Right.
So that we can get some feedback, and we're showing it to you before even the first release. Sorry, the more feedback we get, the more changes that we can make for subsequent releases. So if you guys have any of those details, please add them to the chat. Thank you.
And I can't say screen names that well, so forgive me. Delav, Gaswi, however you say Del, like whatever. Should you put everything in one project, I think is the question, right? Like, do you put the front end in a project? Do you put the back end in a project? Do you put the DB in a project? Do you put it all in one project? It's really like, if you have multiple apps, I would encourage you to put all the application components in a single project. But if you have like a huge database cluster, right, like, and you want to use that one big database for everything, that should live in its own project, right? And then you should have ingresses or routes to interface with it. And it really depends on your application model, how you want to build out those best practices. In my opinion, if you have, like most people, multiple small apps, do multiple small projects. If you have very large apps that like have, you have a back-end development team, a front-end development team, and like, it kind of depends on the structure of your team, how you break up the projects, because remember, namespaces and projects kind of deviate or separate division of responsibility.
Yep, I think that sounds perfect, Chris.
Yep.
In general, if they are functionally related, or from a business perspective they're related, it makes sense to have them in the same namespace or project, because then you can apply the same permissions for all the users who exist in that namespace. So.
Exactly. And yes, trolls, we must kick them. I know, NerdDev. All right. What else are we looking at?
Can I move on?
Yes.
Are we
please.
good? Okay, awesome. All right, so this is just super quick talking about, again, what we are going, again, so post 4.6, we are looking at changing some things in the view that we just showed you. One of the things that we're talking about doing is changing the name from application stages to actually application environments, because it's really your application across environments. There's some history as to why we didn't do that in the admin console and in some of our detail pages today. There's a tab called environments. We didn't want to include this as application environments from the get-go and have there be a conflict. So we're going to be renaming that and then making this be application environments. So that's one thing. Another thing that we're going to be doing, and again, this is in design. So I've stolen a whole bunch of mockups from the UX team and put them into this document so that we could share today. That doesn't mean that they'll be implemented to design, right? Because they're going through review, so there may be some small tweaks. But one of the thoughts here is that there'd be a link up here that says Argo CD, and that will actually bring you to the Argo CD UI, where you'd be able to go to the dashboard and see all of your applications. So Shubhak, I don't know if you want to add any more detail there.
Yeah, I think nothing more from my side. I think
Okay.
so the goal here is that from an Argo CD perspective, we don't want to show everything as is here. This provides a multi-environment view, but Argo CD has an amazing experience as well. So if you're fond of that, you should totally go there and do things with the Argo CD experience. But we are totally compatible with that, and we complement the experience there. So yeah, back to you, Srina.
Thanks. And then the next piece is, as you drill into the application itself, it will also have a link, but it will bring you in context to that application. So again, just in context, link, and launching. So giving you a little bit of the eye candy inside of the OpenShift console, but allowing you to go into the, the more detailed experience through those individual consoles. So those are some things that we're looking at there in post 4.6. I am now going to just quickly go back to the beginning of my presentation. And okay, so here we go. We're going back to, I put this picture for future, right? So everything we're talking about here is what we are looking at for 4.7 main areas of focus. So what's planned, not necessarily what will be implemented, as Chris stated at the beginning of the conversation. So some of the things that we're doing is I-18 and support. So we're externalizing all client-side strings. And so that work's already being in process on both the admin and the developer console side. So that will be, I think, really helpful and useful to get more users more acclimated in seeing things in their own language. The next thing that we are looking at is, again, additional enhancements to the topology experience. So one of the things that we've heard quite a bit about is concern that when you go and make changes to your topology layout and leave the view and come back, we don't persist those. So that's going to be changed. That work is already it's in flight. And there's a couple of other things, a quick add from the developer catalog and more in context support. So what I'm going to show you now is the designs for being able to do a quick add from the catalog. So this is the topology view. There's a new icon that's going to be in the top left-hand corner. Might not look exactly like that icon, but when you click on it, it will bring you a search component in the middle of your page, and you can start typing. And so if I typed in Django, it would show me all of the matches that I have available from the developer catalog. It will give you that preview right in this right-hand section of the modal as well. So when you click on either, you double click on the entry that's on the left-hand side, or if you click on the button on the right, instead of bringing up the right-hand panel, it will bring you directly to the form. So again, this is like just another mechanism for us to provide more efficiency. So instead of forcing you to go to the ad page, to go to the developer catalog, to go to find what you need, if you already know the name of it, this is something that will be able to make the process much quicker. So that's one of the features we're looking at in topology. Another thing, I think we might have spoken about this in the past, is a different call as well, is the fact that we are going to be providing dev preview support for dev files. So we're going to be adding a new card on the ad page that will allow you to provide a Git repo. And if that Git repo has a dev file in it, it will import and deploy that application on OpenShift based on the contents of your dev file. Shubhik, I don't know if you want to add a little commentary there around dev files at all, or?
Sure, yeah, I could do that, thank you. So the dev file is a format for you to describe how you as a developer would work on your application in the inner loop and outer loop. In this UI component, what we are doing is effectively letting you take that guidance that you have created or your team lead has created and import an app using that. For example, let's say you've done something very complex, like I have my application where the build guidance is using build packs and the deployment guidance is using Knative. You have very specialized guidance about how that app needs to be deployed on OpenShift. So that guidance can live on the dev file. And if you import an application which has that guidance, then this is the flow that you need to be using. And it will then and the UI will not make its own choices. Rather, it will respect the choices the team lead or the developer made and had prescribed in the dev file, and it would deploy according to that. So this is effectively letting you store your preferences of how you want it to be deployed on Kubernetes or OpenShift in a dev file, and then the UI respecting that and doing things accordingly.
Thank you. Okay, the next pieces that we're focusing on are enabling customization of the developer experience. So a couple of the things that we have requests that we've gotten from the customer side is they want to be able to customize the developer catalog categories. This won't be, so we are going to allow cluster admins to be able to remove or add subcategories and categories that will be part of their categorization in the developer catalog. There won't be a UI per se to do this, but we are going to provide a mechanism to do that. So I think we've got a number of requests there, so that should make people happy. Another piece that we are going to be doing is we already do allow users to, or an admin to add additional Helm chart repositories. But what we're going to be doing is if you remove all of the Helm chart CRs, the Helm chart repo CRs, what we'll do is automatically hide Helm from the console. So these 3 areas where you see the pink boxes or dashed lines, if you removed all of the CRs indicating what your Helm chart repos were, then you would not see Helm in the nav. When you go to the add page, you would not see Helm chart card in the add page. And even when you go to the developer catalog, you wouldn't see Helm charts listed as a type. So those are additional ways that the cluster admin can change the experience for the developer.
A quick thing to add
Sure.
there, Serena, if you're okay with that. So if you do, so if your admin removes the custom resources that back the representation of the repositories on the cluster, that means that developers don't get to install the Helm charts that were configured by the admin previously. But that doesn't mean that they don't have any other way to get charts in. So if a developer wants, they could still use a CLI to install their own charts, but they are their own charts. They are not the charts that OpenShift endorsed or blessed for the cluster. So just to make it clear.
Yeah, good point. And if somebody happened to do that through the CLI in the topology view, they'd still see that Helm chart,
totally.
that Helm chart in the topology view. So yeah, thanks for adding that. Another piece that we're looking at is application dependency vulnerabilities. And I know that Peter joined us, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago and did a great presentation on this. So again, this is just showing that on the project details page, we will have a section that has image vulnerabilities, and you can get some details there, and you can drill in and actually see the vulnerabilities that are associated with your project if you have any. There are also a number of pipeline enhancements that we're doing. These are more like ease of use and I would say making the user experience better. So here's one piece, is that we're adding the events tab on both the task runs page and the pipeline runs page. So those are new tabs and something that is missing in all the way up to 4.6. So that's something that we're looking at. Another thing is allowing, when you're looking at a task run, allowing easy access to the pod that's associated with it. So if you see the screenshot, and sorry, this is probably still too small, but we'd have a link to the pod that's associated with the task run. And then also, we also are adding a logs page, a logs tab here for the task run. So similarly to on the pipeline runs page, we have a logs tab that shows all the compilation of all of the task logs and step logs. This is showing the logs associated for all steps that are in that task run. Application environments is what we just went over.
When is Tecton Pipelines GA? Sorry.
It is being planned
or
to be done at the end of this year. Or
okay. Yeah. So 4.6 something ish.
Yeah. Alongside 4.6.
Alongside 4.6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so there's an oddball question that I'll ask at the end. It's from JP Dade, our favorite. So it's kind of developed, but I think we've got some answers maybe, but I'd like to ask y'all too.
Okay. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait?
I mean, we can. Yeah. So JP Dade, like he's got a whole team of developers that works underneath him, and he's kind of running the OpenShift show by himself, for lack of a better term. And, he's trying to figure out, which developers are turning which knobs the most, right? Like where should, effort be focused, or what features are we using, that kind of thing. So he's looking to try and find a view of like what features are actively in use in his cluster, what developers are using in the cluster, that kind of thing. I don't know if we have a view or anything that displays that. Do we? I would think not.
When you're saying what kinds of things are being used, I'm trying to figure out what that means.
Like, are people logging in and using the developer console and loading
Mm.
apps this way, or are they, you know, standing up routes and everything, kind of doing it like all gluey together kind of deal, right? Like what, you know, cumulatively what developers are using what things to do what. Is like he just kind of wants this audit view of everything going on in his cluster, right?
Yeah.
And I don't blame him at
Unfortunately.
all.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be nice if we had those kind of metrics as well, because even then we would know, right?
Right.
But we
we
don't
have the audit
yeah,
logs.
yeah,
We don't even
yeah.
have that, right? Like,
But we
so,
don't have, so we don't have audit logs sharing what users are currently doing today.
yeah. Are
It
they
is,
actually?
it is interesting
JP's
'cause-
clarifying. Hang on.
Okay,
Are they
okay.
actually logging into the cluster? How long are they spending logged in? Stuff like that, right? Like that's what he's looking for.
I wonder if we still have Ali on the call, because I did think that there was something on the admin side that you could see. I don't know if it's which users are logged in, or if it's the duration of time that users are logged in, but that's something that we could definitely check in with him.
Yeah. Let me see.
Because that might be helpful. Actually,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wonder
that
if
would-
I could actually
yeah,
go
that would
over
be
there. Let's see,
definitely
I can
helpful.
stumble around and see if we
Yeah,
can find it
yeah.
maybe.
I'm
'Cause I'm good
stumbling
at
around
that.
too. User management. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
sure JP's done as much stumbling as us though.
let's
So
see. Yeah, I do think it was something that was either added in 4 or 5. And I also don't know if there's anybody on the UX team, the admin UX team, that is on chat, or maybe even Steve Spiker, possibly, if he's there, because I'm pretty sure that we did add something on the admin side. Just don't remember what it was. And if we don't figure it out before the end of this call, we can
Well,
definitely get back to you.
tell you what, JP, I will email Ali and you, and y'all can talk. How about that?
Yeah. That'd be great. All right.
So yeah, like this would be kind of like a nice feature to have, I feel like. So like it's a good request.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to figure out if people are using builder images, Helm charts, or dev files, like those kind of things, that's also relatively difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
Helm charts you can tell, right? Because Helm charts you can tell because there's a view to show Helm charts, right? So builder images is difficult. I think even operator back services, trying to figure out if you're using those. Actually, there's a way to do that, right?
Yeah, if you go to,
Yeah, there's technically
if
a
they are
way to do
installing,
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way to tell, but I just don't think it's as easy as you.
Right. Like it's not as easy as is like JP needs it. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question though, because, you know, we should check with our customers and see if other people are looking for something similar and what the requirements are around that. Like, so I'd be curious as to why you want to know that, JP. Is it just
He wants
you
to
want
know
to
because people are
restrict certain
asking
things?
him.
Oh, I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Nothing
Makes
has to be done in a hurry as far as tracking
Right.
goes. Track there is an output. I think it just need to log the users at the minimum, right? Like I think minimum like viable product is who's using the cluster,
And how often?
how often,
Yeah.
kind of deal, and
Okay.
then from there, right? Like what kind of stuff are they using would be like extra potentially.
That's great to know. Okay, we can.
And
Let's-
JP, I'm taking sticky note right now for email to Ali.
Thank you. All right, so the next piece is around enhancements to the developer catalog. So as you guys know, today, when you go to the ad page, you can either get directly into the developer catalog where it says from catalog, or that we have individual catalogs as well, which are kind of like a subset. So one of the things that we're doing, the design work that's being done and starting to implement now, is if I clicked on Helm chart today through this kind of prototype, what it would do is it brings me into a more prescriptive view just for Helm charts, and it ends up providing additional filters that are specific to that type. So now when I'm in the Helm chart catalog, I am now able to see if my admin had configured multiple chart repos, I'd see those on the left-hand side. But when I'm in the developer catalog, seeing all of the things, I can't see that, right? But when I drill into Helm charts, I can. So this is pretty cool. The other thing is, notice that when you're in a more prescriptive or specific catalog, so in the Helm chart catalog, that we are going to provide a breadcrumb so you can click back on developer catalog and get back to like that larger view of all of the types that you have available. So builder images. We're also going to be adding event sources into the developer catalog in the future. So I think that's, a nice feature that we're going to have. Again, if I go in, show what we're going to do for event sources. With event sources, we're not going to have categories on the left-hand side. It's going to be a little bit more simple because we don't have the appropriate metadata for that when we're bringing in the event sources. So in 4.5, when you did a creation of an event source, it was all through a form. You saw little blocks or tiles at the top that allowed you to pick from like 5 or 10 predefined event sources. We're now going to be supporting dynamic event sources as well as integration with Camlets. So we have the potential that the event source catalog could have hundreds of items. So we're moving towards a more catalog-based approach for event sources going forward. And again, this is if you have OpenShift serverless operator installed. Couple other high level things that we're going to be doing that I don't necessarily have the mock-ups for, but just talking about them is again, enhancing the getting started experience. So we're going to add usability enhancements to quick starts. One of them being the ability to have hints if we tell you where to click. So like if we said, click on application stages, you could click on that and it would highlight the element inside of inside the navigation, which will be nice. And again, that's to improve learnability or discoverability for the user. We're going to be providing a number of new quick starts as well as providing an updated guided tour focused on 4.7 on the developer side. And then we're also, working with the admin console team to provide, again, general console improvements. I already talked about internationalization. We're removing the browser local storage and providing persistent storage. So for a lot of the things that people have mentioned before, where if I change my browser, if I change to another machine, I know that I've gone to one customer site and some people had said that, they literally have 3 machines if they're working from home. They have one, they have a laptop and, a desktop maybe at work. So the fact that we had things in local storage was pretty difficult. So this persistent storage should help, I think, with the general usability of the console. Mm-hmm. We're also providing the quick start extension capability, which I know that myself and Ali have talked about in the last couple of weeks. So I think that's going to be a great addition, both for operators as well as for cluster admins at on site. You can add your own quick starts. And we're updating web terminal so that we will provide support for privileged users. So right now, if you are cluster admin, web terminal does not work. Again, that is dev preview currently, but when we go GA, we will be supporting privileged users and cluster admins. And with that, that is the last of what we're talking about in 4.6. And then I'm, of course, going to plug our console customization competition again. So we'll put the registration link, I'll put it in chat. But with that, I think that's kind of all I wanted to cover today. And we can open it back up to questions and comments if there's anything else in the chat.
Shubik, you helped out JP quite a bit there with that command. Thank you for that. Mustafa from YouTube says you could write an Ansible operator that kicked off info when a login, logout happened to track user usage. Yeah, there's like a lot of ways to figure this out and do this because the audit log is there. If you're parsing the audit log, you're going to get all the information out of the cluster you could possibly get. But you're parsing the audit log, which means you're skewering like one record out of a billion, right? Like it's a lot. So yeah, like I feel like we being Red Hat engineering need to engage on something like that since it is an ask. And I will put the bug in people's ears. Yes, thank you, Mustafa, for the disclaimer. Yeah, needle on the haystack, exactly, JP. And I think we lost Serena somehow. Whoops. Oh well. But Shubik, you're still with me, so
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. So yeah, I don't think there's any other questions that are unanswered. If I missed one, please let me know. Can't be too technical. One other question. What is the best way to run a simple 3-node OKD 4X cluster for a POC at my university? Right now, we're still using OKD 311, which is fine for the short. Ooh, so there's actually a lot of ways to run a 3-node OKD cluster, and there have been shows about doing that on this channel before. I can find it real quick. Serena, you're back. What happened?
My laptop decided to reboot.
Oh, fun.
Sorry.
That was a fast reboot, though. I'll take it. I'll give you that one.
It was, and somehow I found the Zoom criteria to get back in. So
Nice, even better. Yeah, so we're talking about like the easiest way to spin up a 3-node OKD cluster, and I'm going to go to the YouTube archive to find that link real quick. But the OKD working group, they have a mailing list. I would recommend asking there too, not just here, because there's probably a bunch of people that have already done it, like probably with the hardware software combo that you're trying to use. So like I would highly recommend going to the okd.io site and jumping into that working group and just kind of asking like, hey, how would you do this 3-node OKD cluster? They will be happy to answer that question. And I will also find the link deep in the archives, because this was a while ago, where Craig Robinson from East Carolina University came in and showed us how he stood up OKD clusters for his university. But it is way, way back, and I've got to go find it. Okay, yes, over 200 videos now. Wow, that's impressive. Let's see, OKD 4 live deployment, OKD working group, building an OKD 4 home lab. This could probably help. I will get you that link. Stand by. And folks, feel free to drop more questions as you have them. Also, I am cshort@redhat.com. If you don't want to ask your question publicly, feel free to email it. There's, right? Like there's no such thing as a wrong answer. Who was asking that? Ryan was asking that. Ryan checked out this link. And let's see. I haven't received confirmation email after registering or the contest rules. Okay, yeah, we'll be sending them out
I
later
took care.
today. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
I can
appreciate
state that
you.
real quick. So yeah, registration, if you have registered, we will be sending out emails this evening. We have one more meeting this afternoon, right after this actually, to talk about getting everything kind of tied up and put into the Git repo so that we can point everybody to the guidelines
Nice.
at the same time. So yeah, so looking forward to that. And
Beautiful.
there's a question about Windows Server 2019 worker nodes going to be GA, and I do not have the question. I do not have the answer to that. That's JP Dade, buddy.
Worker nodes.
But we can, again, find that one out.
Yeah. When are worker nodes? It's like there's movement in this direction. There's the community operator already, but that's not for worker nodes. So we're like slowly but surely moving that direction. But yes, JP Dade, we'll find an answer to that too. Soon, hopefully. Soon is a relative term. All right.
There's actually, we'll get back to you on that one, JP. You're going to be emailing him anyways, right?
Right. So yeah, I can
So we'll
CC
add
you, Serena.
some details on that too. Yeah, please. That would be great.
Cool. That is my
interesting.
holdback to moving to production. Okay, fair enough. Wow. All right. Got some Windows projects there, do you? Fun. Good to know. All right. Well, thank you, Shubik. Thank you, Serena. We got 5 more minutes if there's anything else you want to show off. Otherwise, you can have the time
Give you
back.
a couple minutes break for your next one. Aren't you on again in 5?
No, actually, I don't have anything
Oh.
in my calendar in 5 minutes, sadly. But
Oh,
at
awesome.
1, I have a fun little experience that you all may want to tune in for. We're going to be running some COBOL in Kubernetes. That's right, mainframe stuff in Kubernetes, bringing the two worlds together. Ta-da! So yeah, JJ Ashkar from IBM will be joining us, and we will have a wonderful discussion about COBOL and Kubernetes. So yeah. So see you in an hour, folks. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Shubik and Serena, as always, for joining. And yes, the IRS does love them some COBOL, as I have learned over the years. So do many 3-letter agencies.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And please join the contest for the console competition if you haven't yet. And we will see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.